if you post 1,000 times and only one post resonates and gets a bit of traction, well, then that's time well spent.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners and welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Really super excited and very interested about our guest today, Dan Nikas, who is a former homicide detective sergeant of 17 years. Dan turned his policing skills to e-commerce success in 2015 when he founded and ran GearBunch, turning over 4 million in its first year of operation. Dan, I'm really interested and excited about chatting with you today. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, thank you, and thanks for having me on. And it's great to connect with people who are on the other side of the world, but it's the beauty of the internet and online marketing. We just get to connect and meet.
Yes, it's great. And you're based close to New South Wales in Australia, and I lived there for a couple of years. It was 20 years back. For me, it's like the best place in the world, right?
Yeah, look, it's amazing, and I do love getting out and seeing other countries and traveling the world, but we are a long way away, so it's a big commitment when we do decide to travel, and I get that there's a lot of people, unlike yourself, who would love to come here but haven't been here yet. You know what? The best part about it is for most of your listeners is that your winter is our summer, so you can come on when the weather's not great and come and enjoy the sunshine and the beaches.
And I know you travel a lot and you do business internationally, and we are in an era of, you can have a laptop and work anywhere in the world, but it's still quite, I guess there are like some challenges of operating from Australia, right, in a global scale.
A little bit, yeah. So I have to be pretty flexible with, the time of day that I work. I normally start my day. I don't like to start any earlier than 6 a.m. I find that 6 a.m. in the morning gets most of North America in their mid-late afternoon. And I'll do calls of an evening to sort of capture a lot of the European countries as well. And then obviously yourself, it's the morning for you, it's the evening for me here. So look, if that's the trade-off for the flexibility and the world that we get to operate in and earn a living in, then it's a pretty small sacrifice, because I'm still sitting here in my beautiful hometown in Yamba in New South Wales in Australia. And
amazing. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. So tell us more about your background, and the transition from detective sergeant. I mean, what motivated you to make this change, and why e-commerce?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and I do like to tell it because, well, one reason is people tend to remember who I am. Even if they don't remember my name, they remember that I'm the former homicide detective who now does digital marketing. The other reason I like to tell the story is, I think for new people to the industry or new people to this space, they do sometimes fear that they might not have the experience prior to coming in, like they didn't have a background in marketing or IT or, computer programming or sales. And I'm here to say it doesn't really matter. I think that if someone else has learned it, so can you. And you just need to absorb as much knowledge as you can. Now, my career path is very different to most. Some people do tend to have some what they see as directly transferable skills. And I didn't see that initially. And I went straight from high school, which is, year 12 over here. And I went straight into the police academy when I was 19. I never went to university or college. I never got a degree. I then stayed in the police until I was 36. And then I got medically retired, which was very hard, because if you're not a police officer, you can't just go and be a police officer somewhere else. Like, I couldn't do the job anymore. I had a wife and 3 kids. I still have a wife and 3 kids. And, I had to try and figure out what it was that I was going to do. I didn't really feel like going and doing an entry-level job. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'd operated at such a high level for such a long time in the career that I was in, I just couldn't do it anymore for medical reasons. So I just sort of had some time off after that, and I just dove into online marketing. And I did have a good friend of mine who had walked a similar path. He's not as well known, but he's definitely an expert in his field in digital marketing. And I had worked with him in the police earlier. And I said to him, what is all this about? Is this something that I could have a go at? And he said, look, anyone can. He said, and you're never going to be too late to it because it changes so quickly. So if you decide now to start, it's a great time to start, because in 6 months or 12 months' time, you're probably going to have to do something different anyhow. You're going to have to change the way you do things. And that's probably highlighted by what's happened in the last year or so with the advent of AI and, services such as yours as well. Like, those things weren't possible 10 years ago, but now they are. So it changes the way we do things. So what I did find when I jumped into it, though, is I initially sold T-shirts through print-on-demand T-shirts through a business called Teespring. I think they're just called Spring now. Basically, you come up, you design the T-shirts, you run Facebook advertising to them, people buy them, they produce, send them out, look after all the customer care. It was great, and I found that I had a real knack for it with especially the meta advertising. Now, I thought what I was doing was what everyone else was doing, in that I would look at what would persuade a person to buy a particular shirt. I focused on specific niches and hobbies and things like that. And I would put an ad in front of them and I would hyper target them. And I figured out ways to target them using the targeting within meta ads in such a way that I thought everyone else was doing. And I thought that I was the norm. And I actually got contacted by Teespring, and there's like, you're our best seller in Europe, of all places. We would like you to come over to Europe, over to London to an event. We're acquiring another company and we want you to speak there and deliver some training. And I was like, really? Like, of all the people that you could pick, like, why me? And they're like, well, whatever you're doing is working better than everyone else. And we want you here to tell everyone what it is you're actually doing. And what I found was my policing skills were transferable. So I was an investigator. So I was very good at getting people to do what I wanted them to do, but make them think it was their idea. And I was dealing with people who had no reason to do what I've asked them to do or to tell me things that I didn't know. But I would always manage to convince them to do so. What I later sort of related that to is marketing, is that I get people to do what I want them to do, what I want them to do, but let them think it's their idea. And in the case of being a police officer, it was finding people who were trying to not be found, and then the only outcome for them was they were going to jail. Whereas marketing, I found a lot easier. People weren't trying to hide from me. They were telling me everything on social media. They were saying how many kids they had, how old they were, whether they were married, whether they had a dog, what occupation they had, what they had for dinner the night before. They would tell me everything. So here's this whole world of people telling me everything about them. So I found it very easy to find the right people to put ads in front of. And at the end of it, people were happy that I'd found them, which was a nice change. People were never overly happy when I found them in the police. But when I found them in the online world and I put a product in front of them, they were happy and they thought that it was great. From the success of that, I got contacted by a company who had started producing leggings on demand in the US. And they said, look, we know that you're doing really well with the T-shirts. We would like to try this product, but a new product to bring to market. Would you want to give it a go? So at the beginning of December 2016, I launched GearBunch, and I just launched some designs for leggings based around the niches that I was doing very well in selling T-shirts. And it just went crazy. It just exploded. So in 2017, we were scaling like crazy, and we're at about $4 million at the end of the year. Now that's gone on. We just had our 8th birthday with that brand, and we've continued to evolve. What we did way back then in 2016 to 17 doesn't work now. Some components do, but there's been a big learning curve along the way. And from that success, we had licensing deals with Marvel. So we had Disney licensing deal to sell Marvel leggings and Marvel related products. We've had other licensing deals along the way as well with a lot of well-known bands and things along those lines. What that did is exposed me a lot to the digital marketing community. So from the success of GearBunch, and people saw it and they saw the ads and they could see who I was. And I never hid what I did or who I was. You know, a lot of brands, you'd have no idea who the owner was behind it. But I would just tell everyone what I was doing. And the reason I did is I like to help people. And that's the thing I miss from the police, is helping people is what I miss the most. And it sounds a little bit corny, but it's genuinely what I realised that I miss the most out of being a police officer. So I just transferred that into helping people online, because a lot of people helped me when I first started online. And without their help and just to give me their time without expectation of anything in return, I thought, well, I'm going to do that as well. And in doing that, I ended up on stage a lot delivering training. I became one of Meta's global trainers, which I still am to this day. I'm one of Klaviyo's now trainers that they have out there, and one of their gold partners. I would get on stage and talk, and people would come up to me afterwards and say, "Can you help me?" I'd be like, "I can't." And I'm like, here's the resource. No, we don't want to learn how to do it. We want you to do it for us. So from that, the agency was born. I was a little bit resistant to doing that to start with, because I had been burned by a couple of agencies, and I didn't really like the agency model, where no matter what the results they were getting, they would just still put their hand out at the end of the month and ask for money, even if they were doing an absolutely poor job. And they wouldn't communicate very well with you. So I wasn't a big fan of agencies. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way, which is, if I don't get the results, I'm not going to take your money. And I'm going to communicate with you. I'm probably going to over-communicate with you. If you email me or message me or call me, you'll get a response back from me and my team within 24 hours, which is really different for people who've worked with agencies before. And we have to meet face-to-face, on a call like this once a week for 30 minutes. And we do all the client-facing work like that. I don't do all of the clients. I've got my section of clients, or my group of clients that I deal with. But fundamentally, I think if we can communicate well, you can overcome most problems online, because there's a lot of people that can do digital marketing. I think the problem that a lot of them have is that they don't communicate very well with their clients, and their clients get worried when performance is down, not sure what's going on. They start, just overthinking what's going on, and don't know how to get in contact with you, and they can't get hold of you, and they think they're wasting their money and they're losing money. But the reality is it could just be a particular strategy where you're building an audience and you're saying, well, this is exactly what we're doing, and we're going to ride this out for 7 days, and we're going to regroup, and we're going to meet again, and away we go.
Wow, Dan, this is super interesting. I have a lot of questions. Okay, so you talk about your background and investigation background probably helped you a lot with zooming in on this ICP and your persona, trying to qualify who is your buyer actually, right? And once you figure this out, this is just one part of the story. The other story is what's messaging to deliver, right? And what's working. And I know it's obviously evolved over the years, and today things are maybe different. What was the things that worked for you? It was like a text-based, was pictures, videos? What type of messaging or advertising strategies that work for you very, very well?
Yeah, well, look, initially, first up, it was just images. It was text-based, because we just didn't have the software to do, what we can do now. I mean, I looked at your software and I'm like, well, this is amazing. There's so many different options out there now, whereas back in 2016, videos were a lot harder. You needed, someone who knew Photoshop or whatever software they were using to do it, and I didn't have that skill set. So images, I leaned on images a lot to start with. And we could afford to get away with it then, because videos weren't as big either, just out in the wild. So phones like these with these sort of cameras just just didn't exist 10 years ago. I mean, there was smartphones, but not to the level they are now, and not to the volume that we share videos now. Our internet connections weren't as great. We couldn't share as much video. You go back and have a look at Facebook back then, even still, a lot of it was image-based. Since then, we've had Reels and Stories and TikTok and Snapchat, and all of these new video-based platforms have emerged. So as that's evolved, we've had to evolve, and video is a big part of our marketing strategy now. But images still have their place. So depending on what message we're trying to convey to people will depend on what creative we use. So it could be just text-based. It could be images layered with text. It could be videos. It could be a carousel. There is a place for all of them, and there's no set rules about it either. At some brands that we work with, images work better than videos, even though common sense would say to us the video should work better, but images work better. And that sometimes is because the CPMs are a lot lower, because everyone else competing in those auctions are using videos. So there's only certain placements videos can go, and we come along with images, and the images can go on different placements. There's not as much competition there, and we get cheaper CPMs and better CPAs for them. So there's no hard and fast rule. The short answer is I like to use a combination of all creatives.
And what's your thought related to organic versus paid media, right? Because it's becoming, so expensive, those ads today, and the competition is very, very high. So I think 2025, how do you see this marketing, channels, combine them together, or just focus on one of them, or what's the best way to scale today?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because it's something that we constantly review, and you probably hear some marketers talk about this flywheel strategy, and I called it like an omnipresent strategy. Someone did tell me the other day that God is omnipresent, and I'm like, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but they said it's a like a God strategy, and I was like, no, it's basically we need to be everywhere. We have the technology to be everywhere, but we can't afford to be everywhere all at the same time. It's too costly to be across every platform, unless you're a multi-million-dollar company that has hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend at scale every month. You can't be on every platform effectively. So we like to use Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, as our awareness builder, because people come to social media to be social. They don't come there to solve their problems, but they are acutely aware of the problems that they have when they come to social media. For instance, if I'm looking for a new car, I don't go to Facebook to look for a new car. But when I'm on Facebook, I know that I'm looking for a new car. Now, I can be made aware of a car that's for sale, or a brand that's selling cars that I might like on social media. So we can still build awareness. We can let people know that, hey, we're potentially, as a brand, the solution to your problem. We're not saying buy a car off us the first time you see an ad, but we make you aware of it. We also use social media then to warm up people who have become aware of us. And we like to structure over a 14-day period a lot of different variations of ads that talk about the unique selling propositions of the brand. So what problems does this brand solve? What social proof do we have? What warranties do we offer? What features does the product have? What's the background of the brand? So we grab onto all these different touch points, and we really educate these people so that they're now aware, and they now got a lot of knowledge about the brand, what it is that we sell, who we are, where we're based, what our background is, what other people are saying about us. And we like to cover off on any potential barriers that people have, either consciously or subconsciously, before they even ask the question or make a decision. And we will put it in front of them so that we can teach them about the brand. And what we're doing there is only once they've gone through those two stages, so we warm them up to that stage, will we go for a purchase conversion on Meta. At the same time, those audiences are being fed into Google Ads. They're being fed into Bing Ads. They're being fed into AdRoll. They're being fed into our email marketing system on Klaviyo. They can be fed into Pinterest, TikTok, Snapchat, you get the idea. And it's really good if you don't have a huge budget, you can create awareness and create those touch points with people on Meta and on Facebook and Instagram for relatively cheap. Then look at going for purchase conversions using those audiences, so effectively remarketing or retargeting those people that have taken certain actions across a lot of different mediums. The same deal goes with if you're on TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, whatever it might be, you can feed those audiences back into all of these other networks as well. So this is that flywheel that people are talking about, is that every channel keeps feeding itself. And that has to be the way that we operate today. We're competing for a lot of attention. And the reason we came up with this particular strategy within Meta Ads is because there used to be an old marketing rule called the Rule of Seven. And this predates the internet. This is marketers, I can't remember who it was who actually came up with it. I should actually remember it because I've mentioned it enough times. But the Rule of Seven was we needed to have 7 touch points with a potential customer to earn enough trust for them to get their wallet or their credit card out. And a touch point is everything from, and back pre-internet, it was newspaper advertising, radio, television, door-to-door salesmen, letterbox drops, billboards, things along those lines. So we'd create these touch points with people, create trust, and in turn, they would become a customer. That's now, with the advent of social media and the amount of content that's available to us, and here's an interesting stat that they actually told me at Meta last year. I say last year because it's just gone into the new year. On average, every user consumes, if you're to stack all of their feed up on top of each other, of what we consume each day, it's the height of the Eiffel Tower. So that really puts it into context how much we're actually doing this. So we're competing for attention. Now, the new studies show that Rule of Seven is now closer to 19 to 21 touch points. Now, to try and do that just going out for sales all the time, like purchases all the time, it's going to be very expensive because the CPMs are high. You're competing in auctions all the time with other people trying to get sales. So instead of saying, go out into the big wide blue ocean and go and find all these people on the different platforms for us, we warm them up, we educate them, we make them aware, we get them through that consideration phase in a really cost-effective way, and then we share those audiences across every network that we have available to us so that no matter where that person goes who's been warmed up and made aware of us, they're going to see us and we're going to be looking to get that purchase from them. So we create this omnipresence everywhere. And it'll make your business appear or your brand appear larger than what it actually is, because while some people have an understanding of how the internet works, they don't know that you can share audiences across and you can target people on pretty much every platform.
So you talk a lot about this flywheel of marketing, or this holistic marketing approach, right? Making sure all those channels are active and operated. But how do you know what's working and where to focus?
Yeah, so you have to, there's 2 ways to do it, probably 3. So the first is look at in-app metrics. So in-app means the metrics that platform owns that you know it's getting the right data from. So for argument's sake, it could be engagement on Instagram or Meta. Now everyone's like, well, you can't pay your bills or engagement. No, you can't, but you do know that the person is engaged with you and you can segment them and put them into a different audience. So you know that's working that way. The other thing is in-app metrics is by installing all the pixels correctly on your website and your scripts, you can track what's going on. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. The second option is you can look at third-party tracking software. So there's quite a few options out there now. Some are expensive, some are not. Some work well, some work okay. But you want to have a big budget to be playing with to get the value out of them, I think. If you're spending $100 a day, I can't see the value in then spending another $5,000 on third-party tracking software when, you're spending more on the tracking than you are on the ads. That doesn't make sense to me. Just put more in the ads and use the system that we use, which is for these companies that are only spending about $100 a day or lower budgets, not only 100, but up a little bit higher than that. We'll use a global MER, or global marketing efficiency ratio. So we'll look at globally what are they spending on paid media, and then we will look at what return they're getting through their online store. So if they're spending $5,000 a month on paid advertising across all the networks that they're on, and they're getting $50,000 a month back, the global marketing efficiency ratio is 10. $5,000 goes in, $50,000 comes out the other end. Is it perfect and accurate? No. But can you measure, if we put $5,000 in and we get a MER of 10, gives us 50. If we put $10,000 in, what's the MER it gets us? What MER do we need to break even? What are our cost of goods? Can we scale this further? Can we operate on an MER of 5 and spend $50,000 and bring in $250,000 in revenue a month? So it's a really structured way to do it. And that's part of the face-to-face that we do with brand owners, is that we go through week by week. So we're in there every day in the accounts, and then at the end of the week, we call them our key performance indicators. We run a KPI check, and then we meet with the brand owners and we say, hey, this week, $1,000 went in, $5,000 came out the other end, the MER was 5. Your MER to break even 3, you're profitable this week. Can we scale more? It's a little bit more complicated than that, but you get the idea. So they're the ways you can do it. You can just look at in-app metrics. The problem with that is if you're across a lot of networks, they're all going to claim attribution, so you're going to get double attribution because they don't. Klaviyo email marketing doesn't care if someone's seen an ad on Meta or clicked on an ad on Meta. They don't care if someone's seen a Google ad. Google don't care if they've seen Pinterest. Yeah, you get the idea. So there's going to be more attribution than what's coming through for the store. So that's where that global MER tends to work fairly well. We also then, you need to measure things like conversion rates. You can change a lot of the metrics and reporting in there. You can look at conversion rates, click-through rates, your cost per click, things along those lines. And it just becomes a maths equation that you need to sit down and have a look at with the brand owner. Because a lot of brand owners don't know their numbers. And I didn't know my numbers when I first started. It wasn't until, ironically, when you hit a problem and then you look at your numbers and you're like, oh, that's why things aren't working so well. But yeah. And don't get me wrong, with this omnipresence that I'm talking about, or this holistic approach to everything, I'm not talking about spending $100 on every platform or whatever it might be. A lot of these audiences are fairly small. So let's say, for example, you want to retarget people on Snapchat, which we do. I don't run any top of funnel Snapchat, but we do run remarketing there. You know, anywhere from $5 to $10 a day is enough. And it converts because you're only targeting the people that have taken certain actions on your website. So they've been and visited the product page, or they've added something to cart, or they've started the checkout. They just haven't quite made a purchase. So, and what you'll find is that the only time you'll need to start increasing that budget is when that audience grows, and that means that you've started spending more somewhere else. So you do need to layer in with that your organic strategy. Like, I know organic doesn't get as much reach anymore, but I think it's great for building trust with potentially new customers. If they go to a website or go to a social media account that hasn't posted in 18 months, I think that the level of trust is degraded a little bit because they're thinking, well, is this business still active? Are they still around? Why haven't they posted? And think of trust like a bucket when you come to a business. Now, if I go to a social media account and I can see they haven't posted onto their account in, say, 18 months, does that mean I'll turn away or run away straight away? Probably not. But what I'll do is I will tip a little bit of that water of trust down to the bucket. And then if I go, well, rightio, I'm going to click on the website and I can't find the link, or the link's broken on the social media, I'll tip a little bit more out of the trust bucket. I end up Googling them and going to the website, and then I get all this friction where the navigation's not working, or the add to cart button, I can't see where it is, or I keep getting all these pop-ups that are just annoying. I'm just going to tip some more out of that back. And eventually, if you tip enough trust out, the bucket's empty, there's no trust left, the person's going to leave because they've they've found all this resistance, all these things that they're concerned about, they've lost trust in you. So that's where I think your organic strategy is pretty key. Stay active on there. Do you get much sales from it? No. Unless something goes viral, are you going to get much reach? No. Does it evoke a lot of trust and maintain your online reputation? Absolutely. And what we do find is the organic posts that we make, whilst they all don't go, they're all not a hit. When we do find one that hits with our audience, so we might post a video up, guess what that's good for? It's great paid content because it's the same algorithm at play. If you post something up organically and it resonates with your audience, and in turn, because let's take Meta as an example, it's a user-first platform because the users are the product, so it needs to look after them. It looks at it and goes, well, people are engaged with this, they're liking it. Let's show it to more people. More people are engaged with it and liking, this is good content. This is valuable content that people want to watch, listen to, read about. We then take that, because we've seen it work organically, we plug it into an ad with paid with some dollars behind it, and it's the same algorithm at play. It's the same or similar, it's not identical, but it's similar data points that it uses to decide, is this ad a good ad? Is this resonating with people? Is it going to perform well in the auction? Is it good content to put in front of them? And they'll reward you with cheaper CPMs, and they'll reward you with better placement, priority placements over other advertisers. So that's another good reason why consistent.
That's a good idea. And what you're looking for? You're looking for conversions, for impressions, for awareness, or is depending on the stage of the
At the organic posting level, I'm looking for engagement. If people are engaging positively with us, then that's the kind of content that we want to then bring across. The great thing is, on most of the platforms, is we can take that ad with that post with that engagement, and we can plug it into an ad, and that engagement stays with it. So when someone new sees that ad, they see positive engagement. Again, what does it build? More trust. Because we like to know that we're not on our own and that other people have gone through this experience and it's been positive for them, whether that be buying a new type of coffee, new pair of shoes, what else could people do? Buying a water filter, buying a new sofa, buying a new bed. Like, you want to know what people are saying about it. So if we can get organic posts that have performed well, plug them in to our paid media system, then it comes with all that positive engagement already. And again,
nice. So the organic is more kind of a warm-up stage, right? Building a relationship, and then
a warm-up and a stage as well. So we will post every day on the social, and we will look and see what's performing. And if something does stick and something does perform, it goes over into our paid media assets to become part of the paid media strategy.
Dan, as a keynote speaker and as an advisor, what are some of the key advice or tips you usually share with e-commerce leaders and professionals?
Probably the biggest one is that, and I jokingly say this when I'm on stage, you can get a little bit lost in all the advice that's out there. And some of what I said today, you probably would have thought, I don't even know how to do that. I don't really know what Dan's talking about. But I remind them of my background, and I remind them where I came from. And that wasn't from marketing or an IT background. I'm not a programmer. I was never in sales. I was a police officer. What you see is what you get. I mean, that's what I was. So I say to them, if Dan can do it, so can you. So that's what I jokingly say to people. And I remind them when I have to introduce something that's a little bit more complicated to the audience, and because audience is always a mix of people and levels of experience. Some people, you can't just go in and be basic all the time, because there's other people there that know all that stuff, and they're like, well, where's the good stuff? So you need to sometimes go a little bit higher level, and you see the people at that lower level, and they're like, oh God, I don't really know what he's talking about. And I'll remind them, I say, if Dan can do it, so can you. And the next bit of advice that I like to tell them, and it was something that was mentioned to me because I am a bit of a perfectionist, and I like to have, like you can see, I like the same background every time. I like it so you can't see logos on my shirt. My hair's always done. You'll never see me disheveled. But a good friend of mine and coach said to me, perfect is the enemy of done. So I would sit and try and get things perfect all the time. And other people were getting ahead because they were just doing it. And they were perfecting things as they went. And the crazy thing is that it'll never be perfect. And there's never a perfect time to do something. So the best way to do these things is to actually just start. And you'll be surprised when you start how much you learn, how much you improve. There's another rule that I like to tell people when they're diving in the world of paid media. And I tell them to do the cup of coffee test. So what's a cup of coffee cost where you live?
$5-6.
Perfect. It's the same here. And you have no problems going and buying a cup of coffee every day, do you? Well, most people don't. I buy a cup of coffee every day. So I'm like, can you afford to spend a cup of coffee a day on learning how to do this? And the best way to do this is start an ad campaign for $5 a day. Is it going to transform your business into a wild success? No. What it's going to do is that $5 a day you've got sitting in there, you're going to learn. And for $5 a day, you're going to learn because it's your money sitting in there and you will check it. You can go to all the conferences, you can do all the courses, you can listen to all the podcasts, but until you start doing it, you're not going to learn as much or as quickly. And if you put a bit of skin in the game, just this cup of coffee a day, you will find you will check it every day. And then you'll start to look at the data. And then you'll start to look at, oh, that's what Dan's talking about. That's the click-through rate. Oh, that's how many people have added to cart. Oh, that's how many people have clicked on the website. That's what a CPM is. It's how much it costs me to show this ad to 1,000 people. And if you do that, don't think of it as I'm spending $150 a month on ads. Think of it as I'm spending a cup of coffee a day to learn how to use this system, to find out what buttons to click, where things go, where to upload the videos, where do I put images, where do I put the copy, where do I target people, how do I create these audiences? And you'll find that the more you do it, the more you learn. And that's what I had to do. There wasn't this wealth of podcasts and courses and online resources. You could learn how to do Facebook ads now by watching YouTube, like realistically, or listening to podcasts, or you could follow along on a YouTube channel and learn it. But until you do it yourself, you're not going to learn as much. So I'm really super passionate about that. Just invest $5 a day in yourself and just get started. Or if it's email marketing, sign up to the lowest plan, which is $20 a month, and just start sending emails. What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to unsubscribe. If they unsubscribe because you send them an email, they're probably not going to be a good customer anyhow.
Yeah.
Just start. Yes. Perfect is the enemy of done.
Great, Dan. So what's the best way to find you?
Look, the best way to find me is on my website, which is elitebrands.org, which is elitebrands.org. On there, you can find out all about me. I'm on LinkedIn. We do offer, if people want, audits of email marketing or meta advertising accounts. No obligation to do anything. Like I said, I like to ethically offer values to someone first without an expectation of anything in return. So it's not a bait and switch and, in our system and you need to do something with us. But genuinely, if you just want to find out more about me, elitebrands.org. I've got all my social links on there. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places. Like I said, if I say to people you've got to be everywhere and I'm not, well, it's a bit hypocritical. So, and I even begrudgingly, I'm on X, and I feel like I'm shouting into an empty room most days there. But I think that eventually maybe I will get some breakthrough, and I figure that if you post 1,000 times and only one post resonates and gets a bit of traction, well, then
one post can change everything. It's not a linear approach, right? So you can post.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the key, is that just be consistent with what you do. There's no hack or shortcut or secret. Like, people will try to convince you that they are to sell you a course, but the reality is that it's just be a real person, be consistent, be ethical, be honest, and just be you. And that message will cut through above everything else. Even if you're selling socks, or you're selling coffee, just be you. You're obviously in the industry for a reason. You've got a passion for it or something. Let that passion come through with what you do. If you're not passionate about what you do, then it's probably going to be hard to push that for years and years and years and years. But like you doing this podcast, I mean, you're not going to do them if you hate them. So just consistently do something that you enjoy. Get the messages out there, and good things will come.
Great summary, Dan. I wish you all the best. Great 2025. We are in January right now, so it's the beginning of the year. So really all the best for you. And thank you so much for your valuable insights and for all the tips. And really wish you the best.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on. It's really nice to meet you, and it's really great to talk to your audience. And yeah, look, if anyone's got any questions, just reach out. I'm always around, and I always, like I said, I answer people within 24 hours. So.
And we will provide all the details in the show notes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimy at www.vimy.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.